it's a case of leadership styles or management styles changing over time, whereas, you know, in the late 80s, early 90s, even up to the mid 2000s, he was the gold standard of coaching in world football.
He was, yeah.
And that's yes! Yeah! I said you start with Saka, you start with Sterling.
Well, that's it. We're winning the tournament now, isn't it?
Battered them.
Done deal. They might as well just give us the cup. Might as well just give us the cup now.
Sub them all off.
Beautiful goal.
A walking second half. That's what we want.
Hi everybody and welcome to the Content Marketing Pod. We've got a special episode today. I'm here with Sean Hagger and we are in the middle of watching England's opening game at the World Cup in Qatar. What I wanted to do is not only just watch the football with Sean, as we've done many times over the years, but to talk about leadership in particular. Sean is a leadership consultant and he can go into a bit more about his background in a bit. But we think about where England are now compared to where they were in 2016, and a lot has happened. Before we get onto that, Sean, just give us a little intro to yourself.
Hi everyone. Hi Chris, thanks for inviting me on.
My pleasure.
Little intro about me. I spent most of my professional career in manufacturing. In those industries, there's always a heavy premium on leading people, and I chose to go down that path up until April 2022. I was a leader at Johnson Matthey's plant in Royston here, and that was my last job in industry as their general manager. And since then, I've decided to try and help people with their culture, specifically their leadership culture, through legitimate leadership, which is a framework that I learned through Johnson Matthey in about 2016, and it really made a huge difference to my life, actually, working life and professional life, and made a big difference. Had a big impact on me. So I'm hoping to build a new career doing that. Lovely.
Well, so you've been doing it unofficially for a number of years as well. So, but it's if anyone wants to listen to more about Sean and the legitimate leadership framework, then I'll drop in a link to previous episodes I had with Sean. So the World Cup. Why talk about the World Cup during for this podcast? I mean, I think leadership in itself is a topic that we talked about before, but I think regularly say on this podcast about doing things differently and kind of trying to evolve and change the employer branding, the employer marketing industry, and of course that is only really achieved through leadership. So you go back to 2016, dived out of the Euros, beaten by Iceland, and then Sam Allardyce gets booted out of his job. Although he had a 100% record, but he gets booted out of his job. And it's fair to say that I think England's footballing reputation as a team was pretty much at rock bottom. So brand England was in not a good way. And then comes along Gareth Southgate. We have 2018 semi-finals in Russia. And then, of course, last year we had the Euros and in the final, and just missing out on a trophy, first one for several decades, by a penalty shootout. So, but yet he still, Gareth Southgate still gets criticised from a number of quarters. So, but what is it about Gareth Southgate? Whatever one thinks about his, tactics. What is it about Gareth Southgate that has, I suppose, resulted in all of this change since 2016?
Yeah, I can only offer an opinion and one from afar, because you don't see what he does up front. Absolutely, day with the players, but the impression I got, particularly from 2016 to 2018, which was largely the same players. There wasn't this sort of huge overhaul in personnel, but the 2018 team, but particularly last year, in 2021, which was the belated Euros. The team spirit, the togetherness, the identity that they'd created was the best I'd seen since probably Glenn Hoddle in '98. Terry Venables' team, Euros team in '90s. Yeah, because we had a bit of a rough time in the early '90s, and then we finished that decade and got a bit unlucky, really, not to win or get to the late stages a bit more. And then we just had 20 years of just. Originally, it was like failure to meet your potential in the early 2000s, and it just got progressively worse. And I just felt like we had good players, but they turned up to tournaments. They didn't really know what they were doing as a team. Like they went back to their clubs and they smashed it, and then they come together as an international team. They just wouldn't play together. And I think the coaches have got to take a large amount of the responsibility for that. What I think Southgate did was he just generated this club atmosphere within the international squad. He stuck by his players, almost you'd say almost to a fault. But there's quite a few coaches, that successful coaches. In my brain, I'm thinking sort of Bobby Robson, even Alf Ramsey, if you go back, who pick their players, not the players that the media or the general public wanted them to pick them. And he's stuck by his principles. But also, what I think he's done is introduced a code of behaviour and values set within that group that they've all bought into. And from what I understand, the way he talks to them is via a kind of senior player committee. So his style is, I am the boss and I will make decisions, but it's going to be a consultation. And I think we were talking about it earlier. Maybe even Capello was a bit autocratic, even though he was clearly one of the greatest coaches that's ever lived.
Yes.
Couldn't get that team to gel during a tournament. And we were saying again, like in the qualifiers, they smashed everyone out of sight. World Cup itself fell to pieces because there's something about tournament football that we haven't got on top of, away from home at least, until very recently in Russia. And I think there's all those combinations come together, and he's just done a fantastic job. And when you consider as well that he had the heartbreak that he went through in '96, to the courage of the man to come back, because you said he's getting criticised, but if you put yourself in any leadership position, then you're going to get criticised positively, and you're going to get some criticism. You're going to come under fire. That's just part of life.
Yeah.
But you put yourself in possibly the world's biggest footballing job, or arguably one of the world's biggest football jobs, then you're going to get spotlights on you, so you're going to get something. So I think that's just part of the course. But he didn't have to put his name in the ring for that. That guy's got some serious courage and persistence, and I think he's reaping the benefit of it now. And I was obviously very disappointed personally when we lost in the Euro final, but at the same time, I was really proud of him, and I haven't felt that way in a really long time.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of resilience about Gareth Southgate, but I think in particular there's that kind of humility and emotional intelligence where when a big moment for England in the Euros was beating Germany at Wembley, and after the match he was being interviewed and he said, afterwards I was clapping and looking up at the screen and saw David Seaman there, and I realized that there's nothing I can do. I took away his moment of glory. I'm paraphrasing, but ultimately I took away his moment of glory, and I can't do anything about that. But what I can do is, with the team, is try and give people those moments that they can be proud of and create those those kind of new memories. And I thought that was just like massively impressive in terms of leadership, is to show that kind of emotional intelligence and kind of humility at a point of glory, and also him talking about the guys on the bench, the squad. If it wasn't for the squad, they wouldn't have got as far as they got. So
I think that's a great point. And you look at the line of service, it's him giving to everybody else. It's him serving the team, and it's him serving those people that, in his mind at least, he feels he let down in 1996. I mean, personally, there were a few people on that pitch that let him walk past with the ball in his hand to take a penalty
Yeah.
who probably should have stepped up and didn't. And again, shows courage. And it's a measure of the man. Many good players have missed penalties in shootouts. We already talked about Roberto Baggio 94, Maradona 1990. Some of the best that have ever lived. Mbappe, Diana Ross. You know, the list's endless. You know, everyone's missed a penalty. You know, Ronaldo missed one in the Champions League final. You know, it happens. But to ante up and come back again and do what he's done and do it, and the values, the point I'm trying to make is that he's there for other people. That value system is what he's created throughout the team. They're not there for him. They don't exist for his glory. He exists for their glory. And can you say the same about all of the other England managers that went before him? Possibly not.
Yeah,
it's not the be all and end all. It's part of being successful.
And I suppose, understanding maybe, but again, like it's not like we're qualified to talk about Capello, you know. But there's that thing about maybe being brought into as arguably one of the best managers of all time, to come in and do a job with England and change things around, and feeling like, well, it's one way to do it. It's my way, you know, and that's it. Although, of course, there's the confidence in yourself individually to do what you think is right. There's that kind of, I suppose, humility confidence to actually make everyone feel that they're part of it, which is why you get better performances on the pitch.
Yeah, if you look at Saka, right, we've just watched him score an absolute worldie by a minor deflection. His last kick, as they were saying on BBC, his last kick of a tournament football was a miss, and then appalling vilification by brainless idiots online.
Disgraceful, yeah. He's
20 years old, and now he's 21 years old, and he got absolute support up and down the line from the England setup, starting with Gareth and everybody else involved. And now he comes back and he wants to get, if he feels that protection, then he's going to give the best of himself in a tournament. If you're scared that you're going to get thrown under the bus if you make a mistake, you know, like Gareth was on the pizza adverts and everything else back in the day.
Yeah.
Got that safety. That safety comes from the leadership. The leadership say it's okay. It's okay to go out there and do what you've got to do. And as long as you do it with the right value set and you're doing the right things honestly, then we'll back you up. Now, in a game like in a sports arena, it's not okay to continually make mistakes. Like there's an ability question. But the way you deal with that is not to just throw them away, and especially when they're young kids like that, and hold them up for ransom. You know, they're there to be supported, and they come back and prove what they're about.
Absolutely. There's that big thing about backing players as well, isn't it? You know, so often it's said, and this isn't a footballing podcast, far from it, but so it's less about the football side of things, more about the people management side of things, the leadership side of things. So with like Pickford, how many people have said, Pickford's form for Everton isn't always great, and also Maguire, he's had a shocking season. Sterling's not had a great season for Chelsea, but he backs those players, and we're not just saying it because they're 3-0 up against Iran right now. There'll be bigger tests ahead in this tournament, but it's that thing about giving the individuals that confidence to be able to then express themselves.
Yeah, and I think the difference here is like go back to 1990 and Rene Higuita coming out of the area, dribbling the football and getting Roger Miller taking it off him and slotting it into empty net.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That's pretty much unforgivable. And the reason is that he's gone against all the standards that you expect, and you've been coached, and he's done his own thing for his own gratification. There's no service to the team there. It's just, look at me. Yeah. And he got his pocket pick. He did the same thing at Wembley with a scorpion kick.
Yes, that was it, yeah.
That's one thing. Missing a penalty in a shootout when you've run your socks off for 120. Well, I think he came on as a sub, but that's something completely different. And if you look at the best managers and the best coaches, and Capello would have done this with players. He just England didn't work out for him. But Fergie, I remember Van der Sar having an absolute nightmare half a dozen games. He dropped the ball at the feet of an Arsenal player. I think he was doing all kinds of stuff. But he's clearly one of the best goalkeepers probably ever, and he stuck by him. And I think there was a season where United won the league where he was basically their best player, pretty much kept them in it. And if you're watching the game and not just judging people on the results, and they're doing 99, 95% of the right things, then you can look past the mistakes. But if you just go, if you can't handle the up and down of the things that are out of your control, like making an error in a sporting game, then that's all you can see. Then it is tempting to throw people under the bus, and you don't have the courage of your convictions. And that's a slippery slope, I think, because that's when things start going wrong. If you put that in a business context, someone makes an honest mistake at work, which leads to a fairly difficult situation. If you start blaming and you start, holding people account to the outcome and not what they've tried to do, not the inputs that they've done against standards that you should have set in the first place, then you will create a culture of fear. And ultimately people go hiding then. And I think that's what we've seen in tournament football with not just England, but lots of national team players go hiding. And you want the ball. You want them to come in, ask for it. What did Bellingham just do for 45 minutes there? Wanted the ball everywhere. Yeah. And as soon as he gets scared that if he takes that ball, he makes a mistake, he's going to stop coming for it.
Mm. And there's we talked about individuals and the management of individuals, but then also there's the thing about the team and creating that kind of sense of belonging and, I suppose, purpose. I mean, there's various different ways of saying it, isn't there? But for me, like, what comes to mind is this morning there was a talk about the news about the One Love armbands. If any of the players would wear those armbands, they get a yellow card. And England very vocal about what they stand for, and they have been over the years, haven't they? Where they've actually, lots of people, a number of people say, well, they're getting involved in politics and kind of crossing the line. They should just play football. But I think they do understand their responsibility as being role models, in this country. So the reason for saying, I suppose, well, this is that thing about what's Gareth Southgate done, I suppose, what has he done? I suppose, why is all the things he's said about this thing about belonging and purpose, important?
I think it all builds on what we were just talking about there in terms of values and service. And although leadership, when you're in a hierarchical position, serving.
Oh, sorry. Script news flash.
We scored again.
Saka's got his second goal. So that's 4-0.
Oh, we should go back to the game.
I think we're coming to a natural conclusion anyway, to our chat anyway. But yeah, we'll get back to the football. But yeah, it's good. Good goal. Get it up on the screen and have a look.
Difficult, but everyone on paper would expect us to beat them. We've played in these tournaments.
They're getting excited, aren't they?
Yeah.
You go there and you get these teams.
And the fans as well. They can't help it. Goalkeeper couldn't see it. It's a good goal.
You've got to say it, listen to it. Rice wins the ball back for England.
Another slight deflection, but no, it's still going. Still going to its intended destination. Yeah, so great goal from Saka. 4-0 up against Iran, and so it looks like, fingers crossed, that should be 3 points in the bag. But what were you saying? What were you saying about?
So all those things, behaviour, values, service down the line from a hierarchical perspective is important. But if you can engender those things into the team itself, can you set up the person to the right of you to win before yourself? Can you set up the person to the left of you to win before yourself? That's massively important for this team spirit thing that people talk about often. And it's not about personal glories, and it's not about making sure that I used to get told as a kid, give it to someone else to make a mistake. That's how people used to coach football. That's not really what's. Get
off your plate.
Breeds fear, right? It doesn't breed players looking out for each other. And I think they need to be well coached. They need to be well drilled. Everyone needs to know their job. And that way, when you're picking up your half of the couch, someone else is on the other end of it. Yeah. Whereas if you're just picking up your half of the couch and there's no other sod there, then you get bored of that pretty quickly. Yeah, and that's when you see poor cohesion in teams. So it's all about this collaboration thing. And how can you get that high level of accountability, but freedom to do and be brave enough to do the right things at the right time, like come for the ball in a difficult spot, and know that your team will be there to back you up if you do make a bit of an error. And it's them providing safety for each other and knowing they've got each other's backs, and that's it. It comes from the top, and then you have to promote those behaviours in the team.
I mean, it's often said, isn't it, that thing about kind of having something that's kind of bigger than yourself as well, which is, I think, Gareth Southgate definitely making the team know, the squad know that they are, they actually are representing the country, and actually that, really what they're doing is also transcends football. So there's a responsibility there for the team, and I think that in itself does, give the organisation of England a, more than if they were just about winning matches.
I mean, it was a good goal. A key aspect to mental health is about having a purpose. If you think about it, give the team a greater purpose, then their collective is going to be stronger than the individual.
Exactly. Well, so Iran have scored.
What?
Yeah, 4-1. It's a good goal, actually.
Oh, gee. Why do we always let one in?
It's a shame, isn't it?
Ali Southgate is terrible, I tell you.
He is. He's honestly, waste of space.
Absolute waste of space. I mean, I said we should be picking this team all along.
Well, that's good. Good chat. Nice little short one. I think we should get back to the match then, Sean. But yeah, cheers for that. So, anyone who wants to listen to my episode that I had with Sean a few months back, then I've got the episode link with this video and on my website as well. So, yeah, cheers, Sean. Let's get on with it.
Cheers, Chris. Come on, England.
Rashford is a good example, actually. Not only is he.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Quality player.
That was a good goal as well. He put the fullback on his arse there.
But he's someone with, very strong values, isn't he?
Yeah.
What he's done outside of football is what gave him an honour on the Queen's list.
Brilliant goal. I love that goal. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Question marks at one point whether it was even going to be in the squad.
Come on, let's get 7.
Love it.
It all seems to make sense now. He just seems to have like-for-like replacements in all areas. But the 4-3-3, and it's easy to say now because defensively we haven't been tested that much, and some people say, well, when we did, we conceded. But I just think from an attacking point of view, it offers us so much more. We look so much better on the ball.
Quite a while ago now, but it's a moment that's been with me and will be with me forever. But I'm so blessed and so grateful to have, coaching staff not only here in Gareth and all the team at England, but also at Arsenal, and my friends, my family who put their arm around me, the love of my teammates as well, and the nation, who supported me and just helped me to get back into a good place. So now, when I feel that love from everyone around me, it's really good for me, and it gives me a lot of confidence and belief in myself to go again. And that's why every time I get the chance to wear England shirt, I always give 110% and do my best to make the nation proud.